The chaos of Lenox Hill Hospital's emergency wing paused for a heartbeat when a desperate child's voice cut through the noise. A tiny girl clutching a battered teddy bear begged the doctor to save her mother, promising to pay him back when she gets big. Craig Kellem, a billionaire, notorious for his icy composure, froze mid-stride. Something about the child's green eyes pierced through his carefully constructed armor. But when the stretcher wheeled past, his entire world shattered. The woman lying unconscious was Kate, his first love, the one who vanished 5 years ago without explanation. And the girl with those familiar auburn-tinged lashes? She looked disturbingly like him. Quick question before we continue. Why are you still not subscribed? I'm genuinely curious. Just hit subscribe real quick, please. It takes 1 second, and you'll never miss another story like this. Fair deal? Good. Let's continue. The corridor of Lenox Hill Hospital seemed to stretch endlessly that Monday morning. Quick footsteps, the metallic rattle of gurneys, and tense voices created a symphony of urgency. Then a child's cry shattered the rhythm, silencing nearby conversations. Please save my mommy. I promise I'll pay you when I grow up. The thin, trembling voice belonged to a little girl who could barely reach Dr. Wright's waist. Small for her 4 years, Julia Garner held on to his white coat with such force. Her knuckles went white. Her tiny hands refused to release the fabric, as if that alone could stop them from taking her mother away. Dr. Evan Wright looked down, struggling to maintain his professional composure after a grueling 10-hour shift. Yet this child had managed to break through his defenses. "We'll do everything we can, sweetheart," he said gently, carefully freeing his coat from her grip. "Nurse Miller will stay with you." A woman in scrubs approached. But Julia drew back, her red, puffy eyes fixed on the direction they'd wheeled the stretcher. She clutched Sir Reginald, her one-eyed teddy bear, to her chest, her only comfort in a terrifying world. On the opposite side of the corridor, Craig Kellem checked his watch. 9:15. He had a board meeting in 45 minutes. And this minor consultation about stress-related symptoms was taking longer than expected. At 35, wearing a pristine charcoal suit despite the sterile hospital environment, his phone buzzed relentlessly with urgent emails. Then that cry pierced through his focus. Craig couldn't ignore it. Something in the child's raw desperation made him turn. Perhaps it was the familiar cadence of her voice, or simply the purity of a child's distress. Whatever the reason, he found himself frozen, watching the girl curl into a corner, whispering to her worn teddy bear. "It's none of your business," he thought, attempting to refocus on the email he was composing. His assistant had already rescheduled the meeting. Just a few more minutes, and he'd be out. But the girl's whispers kept reaching him. "Sir Reginald, Mommy's going to be okay, right? She's just sleeping really hard." Craig swallowed, pocketing his phone. As if pulled by an invisible force, he approached. "Hello," he said, moderating his naturally commanding tone. "That's an impressive bear you have." Julia lifted her eyes, suspicious. She wiped tears with the back of her hands, leaving streaks on her freckled face. "Sir Reginald doesn't like strangers," she replied with complete seriousness. "I apologize then," Craig offered a slight smile. "I just wanted to check if you two need anything. Water, perhaps? Hot chocolate?" The mention of chocolate made her eyes brighten momentarily before dimming again. "Mommy says I can't accept things from strangers." "Your mother is absolutely right," he nodded, maintaining a respectful distance. "My name is Craig. What's yours?" "Julia," she answered after a pause, still wary. "Julia Garner." Garner. A name Craig hadn't heard in 5 years, yet it still tightened his chest like a vice. Coincidence? Surely. It had to be. That's a beautiful name. Where's your... He stopped himself, realizing the question might be delicate. I don't have a daddy, she stated simply, without emotion. As someone might say they don't own a bicycle. It's just me and Mommy. Before Craig could respond, commotion erupted near the emergency bay. Doctors rushed past, voices sharp with urgency. The double doors swung open briefly, and Craig caught a glimpse, just 1 second, of the woman on the stretcher. The world stopped. It was as if every molecule of oxygen had been extracted from his lungs. That profile, even pale and bloodied, was unmistakable. The delicate features he'd memorized. The auburn hair spread across the pillow. Shorter now, but still unmistakably hers. Kate. The name escaped his lips like a prayer. Julia stared at him, startled. You know my mommy? Craig's heart hammered against his ribs. He looked at the child again. Really looked. It was like staring into a distorted mirror through time. The same green eyes he saw in his reflection every morning. The same determined chin. The same eyebrow arch. 4 years old. Exactly how long it had been since Kate had disappeared from his life without a trace. I believe I do, he answered, voice unsteady, hands trembling. We were friends. A long time ago. Julia studied him, hugging Sir Reginald tighter. She never talked about you. The simple words struck like a physical blow, but Craig forced himself not to show it. Of course Kate wouldn't have mentioned him. She'd vanished for a reason that now seemed to be 4 years old with light brown hair and freckles. What happened to her, Julia? He asked, keeping his voice steady. The girl sniffled, fresh tears welling. The car crashed. It was raining so much, and the road was slippery. The car spun and hit something hard. Each word emerged between sobs. I had my seatbelt on like she always tells me, but Mommy hit her head. There was so much blood. Craig felt a knot form in his throat, imagining Kate hurt, bleeding, with this child, possibly his daughter, watching it all. Did you get hurt? He asked, noticing a small bandage on her arm. Just a scratch, Julia replied, attempting bravery. The ambulance man said I was really strong. But Mommy wouldn't wake up. Without thinking, Craig moved closer and sat beside her. Your mom is strong too, Julia. The doctors are taking excellent care of her right now. But what if they can't fix her? Her green eyes, so identical to his, filled with fear. I don't have money to pay. I broke my piggy bank last week to buy us ice cream. Craig felt his chest constrict. The innocence of such an adult worry coming from someone so small was devastating. Don't worry about money, he said firmly. The doctors won't stop helping your mother because of that. But Mommy always says everything costs money, Julia whispered. When I get sick, she cries when she thinks I'm asleep because medicine is expensive. The information landed like lead in Craig's stomach. Kate, whom he'd known as ambitious and full of dreams, reduced to crying over medication costs. The Kate he remembered was too proud to ask for help, even when she desperately needed it. Apparently, that hadn't changed. A nurse approached them. Are you family? She asked Craig suspiciously. The word stuck. What was he exactly? A stranger? A man from the past? A father who didn't know he existed in that role until 15 minutes ago? He knows my mommy, Julia answered. They were friends. The nurse's expression remained skeptical. Social services is coming to stay with the child while her mother is in surgery. If you're not a relative, you'll need to. Surgery. Craig interrupted. What's her condition? The woman frowned. I can't disclose medical information to non-family members. Of course. Craig reined in his frustration. May I speak with the attending physician? Dr. Wright is preparing for the operating room now. Someone will update the family when we have news. Family. The word echoed with new weight. Julia's small voice broke through his thoughts. I don't want to go with strangers. I want to wait for Mommy here. Craig made a decision that would change everything. Julia, he said, kneeling to her level. How about I stay here with you? We can wait for your mom together. Her green eyes studied him as if calculating whether she could trust this man. Sir Reginald is hungry, she finally said. Craig smiled, relieved. Then let's fix that. There's a cafeteria. What do you and Sir Reginald like? Waffles. She answered immediately. With chocolate sauce. Sir Reginald likes strawberries. As they walked to the cafeteria, Julia hesitantly took Craig's hand. Her small, warm hand triggered a wave of protectiveness he'd never experienced. It was strange yet somehow familiar, as if part of him had been waiting for this moment without knowing it. And somewhere behind them, in an operating room, Kate fought for her life, unaware that the man she'd run from 5 years ago was now caring for the daughter he'd never known existed. Craig watched Julia devour waffles as though she hadn't eaten in days. Between bites, she talked about school, her favorite cartoons, how her mom told bedtime stories every night. Each detail was another piece of the puzzle that was Kate's last 5 years. Mommy says I'm too smart for my age, Julia commented, wiping chocolate from her mouth. But sometimes she gets sad when I ask questions. What kind of questions? Craig asked, trying to sound casual. Julia shrugged, suddenly interested in arranging waffle pieces into shapes. Questions about my dad. About why we don't have a big house like other kids. About why she cries at night when she thinks I'm sleeping. The knot in Craig's throat tightened. What had happened to Kate? Why had she disappeared? And why hadn't she told him about Julia? Mr. Carter? A different doctor approached their table. Dr. Wright asked me to update you on Kate Garner's condition. Craig straightened, feeling Julia grip his hand tightly. Is Mommy okay? The girl asked, voice trembling. The doctor glanced between them, choosing words carefully. Your mom just came out of surgery. She had internal injuries and a severe concussion. But we've stabilized her. She'll need several days in the ICU for observation. Can I see her? Please, please. Julia begged, already sliding from her chair. Not yet, sweetheart, the doctor said gently. She needs rest. But as soon as she can have visitors, you'll be first. Julia seemed to accept this, though her lip trembled dangerously. Are you family? The doctor asked Craig quietly. Craig hesitated. Under normal circumstances, he'd say no. But these weren't normal circumstances. A terrified little girl was counting on him. Yes, he finally replied. I'm Julia's father. The words left his mouth before he could analyze them. Strangely, they didn't feel like a lie. They felt like a truth he was finally allowing himself to acknowledge. The doctor nodded without question. We'll need someone to handle insurance forms and authorize procedures. Could you come with me? Of course. Craig turned to Julia. I just need to talk to the doctor for a minute. I promise I'll be right back. The girl nodded, though fear flickered in her eyes. Sir Reginald will watch over me. Following the doctor down the corridor, Craig felt he was crossing a point of no return. The more involved he became, the harder it would be to step back. But he didn't want to step back. He wanted answers. He wanted to understand why Kate had run. And above all, he wanted to know if Julia was truly his daughter. One thing was certain. His life had just changed forever, all because of a desperate child's cry in a hospital hallway. When they returned to Kate's room hours later, Julia was permitted a brief visit. The ICU was stark, filled with beeping machines and harsh fluorescent lights. Kate lay unconscious, her face pale and swollen, tubes extending from her mouth and nose. Julia squeezed Craig's hand. "Why does Mommy look like that?" "These machines help her breathe and heal," Craig explained, kneeling beside her. "It looks scary, but she's okay. She's just resting deeply to get strong again." Julia approached the bed carefully, touching Kate's hand. "Hi, Mommy. It's me. I brought Sir Reginald to protect you. And Craig is taking care of us." The simplicity of those words made Craig turn away to hide the tears finally breaking free. Nurse Beth and Miller, who'd been observing from the doorway, approached Craig as Julia continued her whispered conversation with her unconscious mother. "She looks just like you," Beth remarked softly. "Same eyes, same chin. How long have you been out of their lives?" Craig swallowed. "I didn't know she existed until today." Beth's expression shifted to understanding. "Well, you're here now. That's what matters." When visiting hours ended, Craig gently guided Julia away, promising they'd return first thing in the morning. As they left, he glanced back at Kate one final time. "What happened to us?" he wondered. "And why did you take away the greatest gift you could have given me?" The questions haunted him, but one thing was clear. He wouldn't let anything separate them again. Not from Kate, and certainly not from Julia. Craig's penthouse felt cold and empty when they arrived, despite its luxury. Julia's eyes widened as she took in the soaring ceilings and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. "Is this your house?" she asked, clutching Sir Reginald. "It is. And you'll stay here as long as you need." Over the next week, Craig's carefully ordered world transformed. His mornings began with Julia's laughter instead of market reports. His evenings ended with bedtime stories instead of business calls. He learned she liked pancakes cut into circles, not squares. That she was afraid of thunderstorms but brave about everything else. That she had Kate's stubbornness and his strategic thinking. Each day, they visited Kate, who remained unconscious but stable. Julia talked to her mother constantly, showing drawings, describing their adventures. Craig watched, seeing the fierce love between mother and daughter. On the 8th day, as Craig held Kate's hand during their usual vigil, he felt a faint movement. Then another. Her eyelids fluttered. "Julia, get the nurse," he said urgently. Kate's eyes slowly opened, unfocused and confused. Then they found his face. Recognition flashed, followed by something that looked like fear. "Craig," she whispered, voice rough and barely audible. "What's happening?" "You had an accident, Kate. You've been unconscious for over a week." Panic filled her eyes. "Julia? Where's my Julia?" "She's safe. She's here. She just went to get the nurse. She wasn't seriously hurt." The relief on Kate's face was profound. Even confused and in pain, her first thought was their daughter. When Julia burst back into the room with Nurse Beth and Dr. Wright, the girl's joy was explosive. After the medical team finished their examination, Julia was finally allowed close. "Mommy," she carefully touched Kate's face. "You're awake." "My love." Kate's voice was stronger now. "Are you really okay?" "Just a tiny scratch. I was so brave, wasn't I, Craig?" Kate's eyes locked with Craig's. In that gaze was confusion, apprehension, and something else, perhaps fear of what came next. "Craig has been taking care of me," Julia continued, oblivious to the tension. "We're staying at his huge apartment. and he bought me art supplies, and we went to the park every day. Kate listened, her expression a mixture of gratitude and growing alarm. After the doctor left and Julia was distracted with her sketchbook, Kate turned to Craig. "How long?" she asked. 8 days since the accident. I've been caring for Julia the entire time." Kate closed her eyes briefly. Why? A simple question carrying 5 years of absence. "Because she needed someone," Craig replied carefully. "And because she's my daughter, isn't she?" Kate's eyes flew open, filled with a fear he'd never seen before. "Craig, Don't," he interrupted gently. "Not yet. You need to recover. But we will talk, Kate. About everything. About why you left. About Julia. About the 5 years you stole from me." A tear slid down Kate's cheek. "I know." Over the next days, as Kate grew stronger, the tension between them built. Julia, sensing nothing wrong, blossomed with both parents present. She began calling Craig Daddy naturally, as if he'd always been there. Craig learned from Kate's hospital records about the bills, the debt, the poverty she'd endured. He paid everything quietly, not telling her yet. He filed preliminary paternity paperwork, not telling her that either. He was building a foundation. Legal, financial, emotional, to ensure he'd never lose them again. When Kate was finally strong enough, Craig asked Julia to play in the hospital's garden with Nurse Beth. Then he sat beside Kate's bed. "We need to talk," he said. "Really talk." Kate nodded, her hands trembling. "I know. Why did you leave, Kate? Why did you keep Julia from me?" The tears came then, and with them, the truth. "Your father," she whispered. "Harrison came to me the day before I disappeared." Craig went very still. "What?" And Kate began to tell him everything. About the money offered and refused. About the threats. About Harrison's lies that Craig wanted her gone. About her fear and her pride and her terrible, lonely choice to disappear rather than be destroyed. Craig listened, rage building with each word. Not at Kate, but at the man who'd called himself his father. "He stole 5 years from us," Craig said when she finished. 5 years I can never get back with Julia. With you. "I'm sorry," Kate sobbed. "I should have trusted you. I should have. He's a manipulative bastard who's been controlling my life for too long." Craig's voice was steel. "But that ends now. I'm filing for full legal recognition as Julia's father. I'm moving you both somewhere safe. And I'm cutting Harrison out of our lives permanently." Kate stared at him. "Craig, you can't just watch me." The conviction in his voice left no room for argument. Kate was discharged 2 weeks later. True to his word, Craig had arranged everything. A secure apartment near Julia's new school. Legal documents establishing paternity, and a restraining order against Harrison. The apartment Craig chose was beautiful but not ostentatious. Warm. Safe. A real home. Julia adapted instantly, decorating her new room with Craig's help. Kate moved more cautiously, still processing everything that had changed. One evening, after Julia was asleep, Craig found Kate on the balcony, staring at the city lights. "Having second thoughts?" he asked gently. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared to trust this. Scared your father will find a way to hurt us again. Scared you'll realize we're not worth the trouble." Craig moved beside her. "Kate, look at me." She turned, tears glistening. "I lost 5 years," he said. "I'm not losing another day. Harrison has no power over me anymore. I built my own company, my own life. And as for you not being worth it," he cupped her face gently. "You're everything. You always were." "I never stopped loving you," Kate whispered, "even when I tried to convince myself otherwise." Then let me back in. Craig said. Let me be what I should have been all along. Julia's father. Your partner. Your family. Kate searched his eyes, seeing the truth there. Slowly, she nodded. One day at a time, she said. One day at a time, he agreed. Behind them, through the window, Julia slept peacefully, Sir Reginald tucked under one arm. On her bedside table sat her latest drawing. 3 figures holding hands under a sky full of stars. Above them in careful letters she'd written, My family. They had lost 5 years to lies and fear. But they had a lifetime ahead to make new memories. Together, they were finally home. Honest question. What's your reason for not subscribing? Kindly subscribe to help us grow. Are there stories you would like to see brought to life? Drop them in the comment box, and we would produce one on it. Thank you. See you in the next one.